This is an open letter to Mr. Glenn Beck. Hello, sir. Bravo, sir. Bravo. You are famous and we appreciate you. And well, that's about, the one important thing that I can bravo you about is that you're famous. Bravo. Obviously, you have put some effort in your life to becoming famous, so you are famous. Bravo. Also, bravo to Kim Kardashian as well, because she's also famous. Salute. So here's the thing, Mr. Glenn Beck.
You're listening to
I just listened to a very short piece of obviously a very long monologue, and the short piece was basically on Twitter. Thank God for Twitter, because let's let everything come out. Let's everybody stand where they stand, so at least we can talk, and not talking as if like no Twitter, only only people who agree with one side or the other can speak. That then nobody knows where anybody stands, because they don't talk to each other. The most important problem here is Uncle Sam's managers and Russia are not in talking mood, because Russia has felt betrayed. And still Russia wants to talk, but the Anglo-Saxons are hell-bent on continuing with this shit show in Ukraine. Here's the thing, Mr. Glenn Beck. That piece that you said, it was along the lines of, yes, I have this spiritual awakening inside me and I want to actually become an Israeli citizen. Would you give me citizenship, Israel? And I like to also kiss you on the lips. Would you kiss me on the lips, Israel? And you were in that mood. So, sir, I was wondering, okay, let's, first of all, don't buy the site unseen. That is to say, go to the site and see if you can actually get along with the locals. Go to Israel and live there for 10 years. And keep your, live 10 years, not under in the basement, but in your full Mormon attire. Live amongst the Israelis. I mean, don't buy the site unseen. Go live there, live 10 years, then buy the site. But you have to live there in your full Mormon battle gear in Israel, and see if those people who are living there, who you want to actually become a citizen of, see how they feel about you being their citizen. Who doesn't want one more citizenship? Yeah, the more you can get, the more people respect you. You're a citizen of two countries, and you're a citizen of 3 countries, and 3 big dicks protect you, and 4 big dicks protect you, and nobody protects people who are running away from their citizenship because their country has been sent down the wrong path by the intelligence arm of Uncle Sam's managers. That's the story of the people in Central America that keep moving up because their show was derailed some time ago by you folks outside the story. Here's the thing, Mr. Glenn Beck. I had a proposition. Okay, first, if you don't buy the site unseen, go live in it for 10 years, then buy it. Right? You want to be buried there, right? So go over there and live there. See if it's a good place for you in your uniform. That's one thing. The other side of the story is, are you also willing to provide Utah citizenship to the Israelis, to the Ashkenazi folks, who are basically the majority of Israelis are Ashkenazi Europeans? Are you willing to give Utah citizenship to the Ashkenazi? You love them, right? Are you willing to give Utah citizenship, or you, as in like you pull enough strings and provide enough shows to convince the Utah citizens to extend Utah citizenship to the people of Israel and expect them to go and live in Utah? I think, you would be voted out of office if you push for that, because you don't want the Jewish people or Ashkenazi folks living next to you. You support them from afar for the sole purpose of not living next to me. I support you over there so I don't have to live next to you over here. That's the kind of support you have for Israel. And the Jewish people, the Ashkenazi folks, are not the first one or the last one down the path of your wrath. The whole half the women arriving in North America were burned as witches because they were known in Europe as witches. So the Europeans pushed them out to the newfound land, to those poor people, those savages' land. And once they arrived, sometimes their reputation followed them, and they were burned in North America as they were being burned in Europe. The witches. Whoever you don't like is a witch. Right? Now in this case, the Ashkenazi are the witch, and you don't want to live next to the witch, so they say, you witches go over there. Whether they're witches or not, most of it was not true. They were just poor women. But in this case, it's different. But the point is this, that you don't want to give... This is, if there is any kind of thing called anti-Semitism, which actually the Ashkenazi folks in Israel are not Semites, they're Ashkenazi from Europe. The Semites, for first thing to be a Semite, you have to be brown. End of story. The Semitic people have never been so long away from home that they're no longer Semitic. If that 90% Ukrainian and 1% Semitic, I would consider, because I'm 1% African. I can't go claim any land in Africa in my 1%. I have 1% DNA. Let's assume I have 1% DNA in common with the black skins on planet Earth. But that doesn't make me African. I can't go claim any land in Africa. Are you fucking kidding me? So, Mr. Glenn Beck, you don't want to give them Utah citizenship because you don't want to live next to them. And they don't want to live next to you, as it would have been proven if you go over there and live there for 10 years in your Mormon uniform and maybe advocate for Mormoncy or whatever. The natives are not going to very much like you. So you don't want them to live with you, and you don't want to live with them. Please do the 10 years. And you will know if you have any doubts. You can't stand each other. Just like Europeans and the Protestants, and just like the Catholics and the Protestants, and just like the Catholics and Orthodox, you can't stand each other. And anytime any small group of Europeans has a different religion or a different whatever, they're shooed out of Europe unceremoniously. They're shooed out of Europe, if not killed. As the case is recently in your planet with the Ashkenazi folks, unwanted in Europe because they are like 2% different than you genetically. I can assure you they're very close genetically to the rest of Europeans. But was the shooing out of the Protestants or the Lutherans out of Europe had to do with genetics? It had to do with religion again. Now the pushing out of the Jews, it has nothing to do with the genetics. It's the religion again. Well, our forefathers, bent over this way or that way. Anyway, My point is this, sir. You're backing them because you don't want to live next to them. Backing them over there. Okay. A bit selfish from you. That because you just don't like a group of people, you back them only if they live over there. If they come live next to you, you may lynch them, but you back them over there. That's very dishonest. So sort of like saying now they're your problem. Hey, West Asia, Arabs, we had an Ashkenazi problem in Europe, now we are sending them, now they're your problem. Salute. Here's the thing, Mr. Glenn Beck. We love you. But I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Here's my hunch. The real reason you spiritually feel so connected to Israel is that if you can justify them, because you're not a stupid man, Mr. Glenn Beck. You're a well-read man. You can't not be well-read and talk as much as you do. But here's the thing, you can only, because you're well-read, you know how shit got deep in North America, how blood got thick in North America when the previous race was eliminated, so the extension of European race can walk the land, tame the land. My point is this. My point is this. If you can justify Israel and how it's conducting business, if you can justify it, rectify it, make it sound very necessary, righteous. If you can make Israel sound righteous in your own mind, then whatever shit your ancestors have done to North America in order to take it away from the Redskins would be rectified, justified, would be made righteous. It would sound sane. It was insane to just go in and eliminate all the natives purposefully just because they look different or sound different from you. You had to feel righteous to do that. And the only way an intelligent man like you would feel righteous, could live in his own skin, is if he can continue telling the same lie to himself and somehow justify the actions of Israel and say, no, they're doing the righteous thing just like we did the righteous thing in Utah. We killed all those motherfuckers. You see what I'm saying? This is the righteous thing. This is the idea of psychologically, you need to consider what the Israelis are doing as righteous and spiritual and this and that and the other, because this is what they're doing is exactly what your ancestors did in North America. And because you're a well-read man, you know that now psychologically, if you can justify these folks, you can justify your ancestors. So you're basically killed two birds with one stone. One, you get rid of the recent, the minority that you don't like it to live amongst you, the Jewish people, the Ashkenazi folks. 90% of Jewish people in the world are of Ashkenazi race. Let's repeat that. 90% of, this is an actual fact from encyclopedia. 90% of the Jewish population of the world are of one race, Ashkenazi. 10% are, there is nothing left of the other tribes. End of story. And if this is your most populated, and the religion of Judaism apparently started maybe in Palestine between the brown people of Palestine, but religion travels like everything else travels, you know. My slippers have traveled, so the religion also travels and has gone up to Ukraine somewhere, and east of Ukraine is where these folks, Ashkenazi folks used to live. And then natives have picked up the language, the religion, just like the people pick up languages, people pick up religions. So my point is this, that Ashkenazi folks from Europe have become Jewish, and you back them going and taking over by force. Obviously it has become necessary to take it over by force. If you're fighting the natives, that means you're trying to hold on to the land that the natives were born on. You know, people usually are happy if they can stay in their home. Usually people are happy if they can stay in their home. Now if their home comes under bomb attack, they are not they migrate. But they're happy usually to stay in their own home. The problem arises when the pink skins such as yourself start bombing people around the planet and making their lands unsafe. And that's the ultimate intellectual dishonesty that you, Mr. Glenn Beck, who don't really like all these brown and black people around you. Let's face it, Utah was, the Mormon church was very, very white until very recently. So, again, no black people, no Jewish people, no folks, this is Utah. We wanted to stay away from all you motherfuckers. This is pure. We don't want to. Again, you recently allowed the black folks in the church, correct? Or in Utah, for that matter. Hell, I went to Oregon and I was not welcomed. I can't imagine how Utah would tolerate such nonsense. Anyway, my point is this, Mr. Glenn Beck. You haven't tried them, going to living with them. You haven't tried bringing them and see if you like them living with you. You have tried none of that, but you want to be a citizen of? It's sort of like getting married on sight unseen. Getting married without, any identification. It's sort of like, oh, okay, sitting, I want to marry you because you just sat next to me. I have some spiritual connection. You want to get a citizenship of a country which is populated with the people that you really are not comfortable with, to say it the least. And they're not comfortable with you, to say the least. But so this all comes down to that it's a colonial project. And if you can justify it, make it look righteous, you feel you have done just for your ancestors and their actions. Somehow in your head you feel better because yes, that's how the world is. The civilized go and eliminate the savages, which I feel you still is an idea that you harbor. You agree totally with that there are some people who are civilized and some people who are savages. No, you can leave the savages in their land and you can build next to it. Believe me, they can also, if they can stand upright, they can also read and understand the road signs, and they can be part of the economy, and they can be part of the society. They can understand road signs. They're not that dumb. But the thing is, you don't want to integrate. Neither does the Israeli. Just like you, Mr. Glenn Beck, don't want to integrate with all the Israelis in Utah. The Israelis don't want to integrate with those brown natives who were born in the fucking land, who have homes there, addresses there. The fucking family has had an address there for 200 years, 300 years. And suddenly, because your God said so, his address has to change? Oh yes, me and my forefathers, we were in this address for the past 350 years. This land was known as ours. It's Arab land, and we are Arabs, and my brown skin and my wrinkles can tell you I'm Arab. Oh no, you pulled out the deed from 4,000 years ago. It's not even a deed, it's just somebody says in some book that now my land belongs to an Ashkenazi folks from the vicinity of the Caspian Sea. They move into my land. What? It's a sun thing? I mean, what is it? I mean, you can do the sun thing in a lot of other places. You can do the sun thing in North Africa. It's just that they want to stay separate from the natives, just like you want to stay separate from the Jews, the Ashkenazis. The Ashkenazi wants to stay separate from the Arabs. But what I see is that everything has worked fine in New York City. It contains both, Ashkenazis and Arabs and Europeans and white and black. Everything has worked fine in New York City. The thing is, the problem is you have given a long leash to the Israelis in West Asia. I mean, the metaphor, short leash, long leash. You have given such a long leash to the Israelis that they're about to hang themselves off a cliff with that leash. And, depending on the size of, the dog, the owner of the dog may or may not end up at the bottom of the cliff with the pooch. Because you have provided a very long leash to Israel. Because you feel so, spiritually close to them, culturally close to them. Well, they have democracy and they have capitalism and they rip each other off as just as good as we rip each other off. They're just as smart as we are, and they also have suburbs, and these Arabs don't understand suburbs. Savages. Salute. Yeah, sir. If you can justify Israel's existence, you can justify your own existence, and because your conscience is troubling you regarding your own existence and your forefathers' existence and what they did, not your existence, but your forefathers' existence and what they did to the natives, if you can justify what Israelis are doing to the natives over there, your existence will be justified. If not, you have trouble sleeping at night. We know. It's unfortunate that your xenophobia towards the Ashkenazi folks and their xenophobia towards other people and let's not call it xenophobia, let's call it that uncomfortable state has driven this idea of Zionism, this idea that okay, these people don't like us all here in Northern Hemisphere, we're going to go Southern Hemisphere. So, and try to see if we can piss off the people of Southern. These people in the Northern Hemisphere didn't like us, and we go try our luck in Southern Hemisphere or closer to the equator. But I mean, that's the whole, business of Ashkenazi. But they may be the problem, they probably are not the problem, because the witches are not problems. I don't believe in witches, and neither any other sane people. But the point is this, that you don't like a group of people, you send them packing, like the British criminals who were packed to Australia. Now the Jewish are considered as unwanted. They're sent packing to West Asia. These are all your packages that are arriving at the doorstep of other places in the planet, Southeast Asia. Australia suddenly becomes a white country. Southeast Asia and, Malvinas and, India take it over, colonize. If it doesn't have any people that's going or doesn't have enough people, doesn't have too many people, let's go and eliminate them and become the rulers. These are all Zionism. It's not Zionism, it's just you Europeans trying to distribute more, separate more, and repopulate the planet with yourself. With absolute disregard to the native flora and fauna. It's a difficult job trying to justify this BS by even to the last breath, that yes, if we can justify the existence of Israel, bunch of Europeans living in West Asia, then we can justify what we did in North America, South America, Australia, a lot of places in Africa we tried to do, we just couldn't run out of them. They reproduce so much. No, sir. I don't think your views with this regard is sane. I mean, bravo to you that you're famous, but your views are not, in this regard, are not very sane. You're trying to justify your historical actions by justifying actions of Israel today. Israelis have the right to live, all of them, but where with the other white people live, because the Israelis are obviously white. Israelis have the right to live, but with white people, and if they want to live in brown Arabian Peninsula, where the natives are mostly brown, they have to accept that they're going to be in a minority because the natives are brown. Because you stay long enough there, after many generations, you will also slowly become brown. 10,000 years, your descendants are also going to be brown after 10,000 years. The Ashkenazi folks have been so far away, so long away from Palestine, that area, Arabian, have been away so long from Arabian Peninsula, that if genetically they are 1% Hebrew, Palestinians are the ones who are 90% Hebrew, 99% Hebrew. Hebrew genetics from the original Jews. Palestinians genetically are from the original Jews, and you're killing the Semites, and you're saying anybody who is protesting or killing and taking over the Semite land is an anti-Semite. I would consider that a pro-Semite if you protest Semite getting killed and the land being taken over. I would consider that as a pro-Semite. I'm not sure, why you're anti-Ashkenazi, you suddenly become a pro-Semite. You become anti-Semite. I'm not even anti-Ashkenazi. I'm just saying that what Ashkenazis are doing, first of all, they're not Semite, they're Ashkenazi. Second of all, what they're doing is a crazy thing. It's not sane, as you would say, on your planet. It's not a sane thing, and by you supporting an insane action in West Asia, that doesn't make you righteous. Seriously, it just makes you more wrong. Salute. Mr. Glenn Beck. please, you can't make a right out of insisting on wrong. You can't make a wrong right by insisting on it. The natives of the land have the right to stay on their land. And New York City has worked just fine. Why aren't you advocating for a secular state of Palestine or secular state of Israel? That will not work because that wouldn't be a colonial fort in West Asia. Israel can only function as a colonial fort in West Asia if it remains pink skin dominated. If it remains pink skin dominated. And please don't bring me these, you go and find a black or a brown man in Israel with the tweezers and you pull it out and you come and put it in front of your camera and says, you see this brown man, he's Israeli. 90% of all Jewish people in the world are white. Whether they're Polish white or the Austrian white, I don't know. They're white. They're all Ashkenazi white. But they're still white. They belong in Europe. And you want to be citizen, your action and Bill Maher's action, you and Bill Maher are just, basically the uniparty. It's clear that basically the uniparty has one foreign policy. The uniparty may have two domestic policies, but the uniparty has one foreign policy. And that's why you and Bill Maher agree on so much with regards to foreign policy. I can bet you guys can have a nice dinner and have a lot to talk about with regards to foreign policy, Mr. Glenn Beck and Mr. Bill Maher. But as long as it's about foreign policy, you don't agree much on domestic policy, but well, Mr. Bill Maher pretends that he doesn't agree with anything you say regarding domestic policy, but with most of it he agrees. So, and this is your foreign policy, a very colonial shaped foreign policy. Colonial shape is you go through the door stating that we are righteous. Capitalism is righteous. Democracy is righteous. Although it hasn't worked for us, we're still, going downhill since the last time we beat the shit out of the planet. World War II is it was basically a win for Uncle Sam, Uncle Sam's managers. It was a win for Uncle Sam's managers. The rest of the world suffered by it, but pretty much the British and Uncle Sam's managers pulled through. That was World War II and World War II. Again, the British get rid of their peasants. Sometimes, if not through colonialism, the British like to slaughter their own peasants in Europe by fighting Europeans in Europe. Europeans have never fought a war, beside leaving the Roman times alone. More recently, Europeans have never fought a war in England. Nobody goes across the fucking ocean channel to fight the people in an island, because an island doesn't have any resources. Whatever resources it has been pulled out long ago. It's the islanders who keep going to the fucking mainland in search of resources and friends and income and whatever. That's the colonial heartbeat of England. And you insist, Mr. Glenn Beck, you insist that this colonial mindset and this righteous mindset that we did the correct thing, your conscience doesn't sit right with you, so the only way you can pull through is to keep repeating that lie to yourself. That, Israelis are doing exactly what, the Protestants and the Lutherans did in North America, and drove out the savages and brought peace and prosperity for everyone. Well, there was peace and prosperity. Yes, the tribes fought with each other from time to time, as Europeans have been. They got a war named 100-Year War. I mean, you can't outfight Europeans or the British. They had a war named the 100-Year War because both kings decided that actually they like to get rid of some of the peasants. So they kept continuously fighting each other and getting rid of their peasants over nonsense. This is a 100-year war is an European invention. Of course, tribes in North America fought with each other, but none of them was, they were all relatively had the same skills, and nobody could commit genocide against the other side. Even if, they would, if they couldn't, so it wouldn't happen. But the Europeans came and committed genocide in North America because they could, because they had better weapons. That's the only difference between the Israelis and the natives. Israelis have better weapons. End of story. And better information they get from their white allies. That would be the British, the Germans, the North Americans. They get the weapons from them, they get the intelligence from them. Dude, Mr. Glenn Beck, this is a colonial fort by white people, put down by white people, supported fully by white people in West Asia. West Asia is called Arabian Peninsula, sir. If you're not an Arab, you'd have no business. You cannot have any land claim or business claim in Saudi Arabia, in Arabian Peninsula or Saudi Arabia. It's Arabian Peninsula. Only Arabs have the right on Arabian Peninsula. You first have to be an Arab to live there. Test them genetically. And if you do that, when you do that, you find out that about 10% of Israel actually may belong in that land genetically. They have been away for so long that they no longer genetically qualify as being Semite. If you no longer qualify genetically as being Semite, that means you're not a Semite. You have been away, and you have so many generations have intermingled with the natives of some European country that you no longer qualify as a Semite. You're killing the 99% Semite, so the 1% Semite can create some kind of a Zion. Can you hear yourself, Mr. Glenn Beck? You're killing the 99% Semites. Those are the Arab brown skins living on the land. You're killing those who are 99% Semite in order to provide protection for the 1% Semite in West Asia, in Arabian Peninsula, in the peninsula of the Semites. The 1% Semites is being provided as much weapon as possible in order to push away and subdue the 99% Semite. You are helping the 1% Semite genetically 1% Semite to subdue the genetically 99% Semite on Semitic Peninsula, Arabian Peninsula. That's insane. And if anybody protests that, you call them an anti-Semite. Salute. This is the thing, Mr. Glenn Beck. You guys have been in a studio only speaking with themselves. I think Jeff Bezos said it best recently, that you guys only speak with yourself. You don't bring anybody who doesn't agree with you, and you only bring people who totally agree with you, maybe 1% different, but 99% they agree with you. And you bring them over and sit down and talk with them and have a good conversation with somebody who is in agreement with you 99% of the time. When was the last time you held your show in Cairo or Syria? You hold your show there and see what the natives think of you and who you are and what you stand, Mr. Glenn Beck. If you fucking travel to any of these Arab countries, and I don't mean Jordan. Jordan is another fort. You're keeping Jordan together by paying them. You're keeping Egypt together by paying them. But in order to protect your main fort, which is Israel. But go speak with even the people on the street in Egypt or Jordan or Syria. Truly, if you still don't believe it, but I kind of doubt that you know that you're lying. I kind of doubt that you know what you're talking about. Because if you go to Israel, you just go to Israel. Have you ever been to Syria, Lebanon, in the street, talking to people? Do the natives of those lands have any rights? Here's the thing, Mr. Glenn Beck. You try to say that you're a fair man. How much have you provided in your shows about what is the word in the streets in the Arab land, the real world? What the 99% think in the streets of Egypt and Jordan and Syria and Iraq and Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Even Saudi Arabia, the street people think very different from their rulers. As you know, it's a kingdom. It doesn't matter what the street people think. And that's your best friend. I mean, they say know a guy by who his friends are. Know a guy by who their friends are. They're friends with. Know the guy. You want to know your friends, sir? Your friends is Israel, which is right now knee-deep in the blood of the natives in West Asia. The brown-skinned natives. These Ashkenazi folks from Europe are knee-deep in the blood of the Arab brown-skins. Native brown-skins. Other friend, Saudi Arabia, they have no concern about their people, and you can tell is because on a dime it's trying to go on the dime. Historically, speaking, culture takes time to change. Apparently Saudi Arabia went from burqa to bikini, is trying to go from burqa to bikini in a matter of a decade. I mean, that can only happen if the people in the street have no say, because people in the street take time to the culture in the street takes time to change. The culture in the street takes time to change. But if you're ruling from top to bottom with this transgender over here, as well as going from burqa to bikini in a decade over there, it's a top to bottom issue, top down kind of government. You're going to be okay with transgenders from tomorrow on a dime. You're going to be okay with bikinis in Saudi Arabia by tomorrow. Society is going to be okay with it. Shut up. Anyway, my point is this, sir. These are your friends. Saudi Arabia, top to bottom government. Israel, not a very pretty sight. Who else is? Palau, an island of 50,000 people, and Nauru, another island of 50,000 people. These are the countries that most recently have been the only noticeable have been the only ones not voting in lockstep with Uncle Sam. It's sort of like all the really crazy votes go down as, 4 against Israel, Uncle Sam's managers, and Palau and Nauru are in one group. It's like 4 against 196 nations, 4 and 4 nations against it, and Saudi Arabia, Israel, Nauru, Palau, and Uncle Sam form a group. These are your friends. Palau and Nauru, it's like they're kind of a lice in your hair, which have no consequence except when it comes to United Nations. Israel is totally dependent, as a fort, is totally dependent on your ammunition that you can provide them in order for them to subdue the natives. And Saudi Arabia is a dictatorship, monarchy, one family rule that has doesn't provide any accountability to the people it supposedly serves, or the people who serve the family. The monarchy, the people serve the royal family. It's not the other way around. The royals don't serve the people in the monarchy, the people serve the royalty. That's the whole business of democracy in your system that has come down the same path. People start serving the royalty. Does it ring any bell? Here's the thing, people and countries with the friends they keep. Israel is, what I'm trying to say in summary, Mr. Glenn Beck, you don't like them, they don't like you, you can't stand each other, that's why you can't live next to each other, you and the Ashkenazi folks. You don't believe in them, they don't believe in you. You're standoffish, except when it comes to the brown man and the land that you want to allow to these people that you can't stand, so you don't have to next to them. You don't have to live next to them. And the brown man is being sacrificed in West Asia in large numbers. Brown children are being sacrificed in West Asia in large numbers because you folks can't stand each other. Just like the Spanish and their witches. They found some women they couldn't stand and they just shipped them to North America. Then other men followed them who thought they were discriminated against to North America. You keep exporting your unwanted, and since you have tortured your unwanted for so long, these people have become psychopathic. So wherever you send them, whether it be the Puritans that you sent to North America, those people were psychopathic. They psychopathically killed off the natives. Doesn't matter who people become psychopathic. You torture them long enough. Imagine this: you torture a group of people in Europe, of your own people, just because they're 1% different. You torture them, or they believe in some crazy stuff that you don't believe in. It's not that your crazy stuff is sane. It's just that two crazy people believe in two different crazy stories. You torture each other, and the majority wins and the minority loses, so the minority gets tortured more. Then the minority is sent packing. After all that torture, the minority is sent packing to Virginia. I'm sorry, did I say Virginia? I meant Ashkelon. The minority that was being tortured until yesterday, at least, mentally. Maybe there weren't 6 million Jewish people Ashkenazi folks who perished in during World War II. Maybe it was 2 million. Maybe it was 1 million. Still, they were being persecuted. They were being used like, animals, like slaves. They were being used like slaves in Europe for manufacturing, for great purpose of war. You can't make it right by adding more wrong, by adding two wrongs. You can't make it right, Mr. Glenn Beck. This is what I'm trying to say. It was a crazy thing to do when your ancestors did it. It is a crazy thing to do now that the Ashkenazi are doing it. Just like it was a crazy thing to do when the Europeans did it in South Africa. It's crazy. It doesn't work. Not in the long term. Even in the long term, it has had this effect on somebody called Glenn Beck, a famous person, Glenn Beck. It has had this effect on him that now he's looking to justify other atrocities in order to justify his ancestors' atrocities. That I would consider that as a bad effect. Here we are 270 years later. That's from when you were a country. 400 years later, 500 years later from the first time Europeans started moving to the Americas. 500 years ago, we started moving to the Americas. In order to justify that greed and want and just total lack of unfriendliness from other Europeans who were living in Europe. And let's be real. Would you rather be a peasant in England or be a free man in Virginia? Would you rather be a free man in Virginia? It's not that difficult to find out. Would you rather burn in Auschwitz or would you rather dig a hole in Palestine? You go to you have options to pick, and if your options are very limited, your options are limited. You have limited the options of the Ashkenazi is either Auschwitz or go to that unfriendly environment and try to make it for yourself. And we are with you. Can it be done? Yes, of course it can be done. You did it in North America. The white people in South America did it in South America, and the white people in Australia did it in Australia. Can it be done? Yes, it can be done. Should it be done? Do you think the only thing that is important in this life is diversity? That's the only thing that makes life interesting. That's why life in prison is not very interesting, because it's not very diverse. You go from room to toilet to chow, then to toilet to room. Room, toilet, chow, toilet, room. That's why it's jail is jail. It's very uninteresting, unless they kill you. The life outside of the prison, the only thing that does make it interesting is to have the different races and the different religions. I can assure you, you can live well in New York. Nobody's gonna hang you or spit on you because you're Mormon and wearing a cross around your neck. Try wearing your cross in the 10 years that you're going to live in Israel before you become an Israeli citizen, in those 10 years, try wearing a cross around your neck and walking to work every day in Israel. And see if you actually want to be a citizen of Israel. Seriously?